Hello, welcome back. In this segment, we are going to talk about assessment instructions. And the main question we have in this segment is, do you have a strategy for writing effective instructions? Angie, we'll start with you.
And part of that depends on what kind of assessment I'm using. I mean, I think on quizzes or tests, I do take a lot of time writing the overall instructions for the test. And then, of course, checking through the way that I ask questions on the test itself. For high stakes tests, like the final exams, I'm also really careful to include what they do if something goes wrong technically during the test, because I think that can lead to high anxiety. So, how to contact me or how to contact tech support if something would happen. So, that's always a part of my instructions along with just my guidelines for what I expect from them on the exam. But when I'm looking at other kinds of instructions for assessment, whether that be some kind of written assessment or some kind of project submission, I always believe that the instruction should come in multiple forms. So I have the basic instructions. I usually include some kind of template or example, and I obviously always include the rubric as well, so that they can see in multiple forms what is expected from that assessment.
Awesome. Emery, do you want to share what you use or what you do, your
Sure.
strategy?
Yeah, of course. I think for tests, it's very important, especially for online exams, that you're very thorough in your instructions. And I've reached the point now where the exam probably begins on page two, and the first page is just a set of instructions, and also what to do if things go wrong, and how to rectify that so that you don't go into panic mode and miss the whole thing. So I think it's very important to lay all that out. The other thing is just to spell out everything that you want students to do, even in the shorter assignments. Even, for example, in discussion forums. I mean, by the end of the semester, they have an expectation of what they're supposed to do, so I don't feel that I need to. But that first half of the semester, I will say, I want your responses in 3 to 5 sentences or 4 to 5 sentences or something like that. Or if I'm doing a short assignment with them, I will say 1 page, and it's it. I want one full page, no more, no less, kind of thing. And of course, I always get some questions about what if I go over? What if it's not quite full? But the point is those are things that in class you just convey or come up in questions, and they don't come up so well in the online environment unless you actually spell them out completely. One last little strategy here to do is I will always do in announcements reminders of assignments, and I'll tell students that if they have questions about it, to respond to the announcement, because if they respond to the announcement, everybody else will see it. And that way it becomes a kind of class dialogue, because I don't want students just asking me personally, I didn't understand that. It's better if they ask me publicly, because if they do, there's probably 3 or 4 of their colleagues that also have the same question, but we're just afraid to ask.
Awesome. A couple of things that I like to do, and I think Angie mentioned it when she first explained what she does, but I always try, there's a basic explanation of what the assignment is, how you should do it. I always try to provide some sort of template for them so that way it at least frames what I want. But at the same time, I've learned I usually do videos as well. And one of the videos I like to do is I call it my lab assistant, and it's just an animated character that I've created. And my lab person basically describes, it's kind of like giving them the skinny on how to do the assignment. So it's basically me, but it breaks down pitfalls that other students have fallen into, things that they might want to think about, things that they might want to include. It always says read the rubric, print the rubric, so that way they really kind of emphasize the things that are already there. Another thing that I like to do is after I go through and say the course is over, or after I grade certain segments, I go back and I look to see where were the problems, where do people lose points? Is there a common place where they're losing points? And I go back into the description, go back into the directions to see, is there something else I should add? And then in one of the final reflections in the class, I think in every class we have students that are really honest with us, that will share different things with us. I'll ask, was that clear? Did you understand what we were asking you to do? Do you have a good understanding of what was intended in that assignment based on the directions? So I go back in and revise what I've said, so that way it cleans it up for them. So it makes it a little bit clearer for students. But one of the things that my students have said they love is my little lab assistant and the person that gives us the skinny on the assignment and what's happening. And it also adds some fun. I don't know if they truly understand that it's still me. So it's not my voice, but it's a computer generated voice, but they seem to like that. And they found, oh, that lab assistant is great. I'm like, Okay. So I
whatever.
think sometimes it helps if it's not our voice.